So Simon, thank you for accepting our invitation to join the discussion about fintech trends and for sharing some insights on that topic. Your professional experience in the financial services is very extensive, I guess. So can you tell us a bit about yourself, Capify, and your role at Capify as well?
Yeah, sure, Adam, and great to be on here. Thank you for inviting me to join you. I've been part of financial services for the last 16 years. I started off actually as a teller in my local branch in my native New Zealand. You could probably tell by my accent, and eventually found myself in business banking. Then about 7 years ago, I made the transition into the business ventures arm of the bank I was working with. And our mission there was to leverage third-party fintech capability for the benefit of our business customers. And that really opened my eyes to the power of fintech at the time. I remember specifically, actually, a fintech delegation came over from London, which included a B2B lender. And they gave this presentation about how they were using data to actually speed up the credit underwriting process and make same-day funding possible. And I'd come from this sort of business banking background where I was issuing loans out to customers, and our average turnover time was probably 1 week. So this was a completely game changer, and it just opened my eyes to this. And from that moment, I wanted to be working in this space. It was something I wanted to be a part of going forward. And since that time, I've worked in both Australia and the UK with some startups and scale-ups. Mainly in the lending space and B2C and B2B. So yeah, I joined Capify a few months ago. Capify is an alternative lender to small and medium businesses here in the UK and Australia. And we've been going since 2008. And my role here is to lead our partnerships. So which is really about finding ways to work with partners and market and in order to make quick and simple capital available to more SMEs. So that's what I do presently.
Perfect.
Great. And thanks for this. So we would like to ask a little bit more about Capify itself. So as we understand, you as a company, you say that in lending, it's quite important right now to be focused on a user, on a client. So the client-centric approach is quite important. And so we are quite interested in if actually you use some kind of a technology or technology solutions, digital solutions to help you with this customer-centric approach and implementation of the proper customer service.
Yeah, absolutely. And I sort of like that question because fintech has, I think these days the word fintech is quite broadly defined, and a lot of people have different opinions from it. I guess when I was really starting out into it, it was, the word fintech meant if you're doing something better than a bank was, essentially, more or less. So, Capify, we've been going since 2008, and essentially we have been a fintech because otherwise we wouldn't exist. Our unique selling point is doing simple and finance, easy finance better than a bank can do. And over the last 10 years, we've introduced more fintech-like technology for our customers to stay competitive and improve the experience. And that includes open banking, which a lot of our fintech lenders are doing, which has been awesome for customers. I think it just speeds up things so much, makes it so much more easy rather than sending in your year-to-date accounts and last 3 years of whatever. So we use open banking. We use API integrations as well. Various data points, company house, credit bureaus, and things like that. So I guess really about being customer-centric, which is really important to Capify. It's really about finding the right blend of technology and people at the end of the day. And we actually use something called a hybrid approach. And that really means, although we have a digital end-to-end process, right from an application to, we use DocuSign at the end, we find that small business owners do like to actually talk to someone during the process. And that's exactly why we have a local-based call center in Manchester, where customers through the application process can call someone, get hold of an expert in 15 seconds, basically during business hours, which we find works really well. In B2C, that's very expensive to sort of run that, and mostly in B2C, you get these self-driven app processes which work. But I think in B2B, the hybrid approach really makes a difference. I think as a result of that, we have great Trustpilot scores. Most of our customers come back for a second loan. So why not, really?
Yeah. So right now, like during pandemic time, it seems, unless my opinion, it seems like technology is even more important now this time. So how has COVID affected Capify and your clients? Have you been able to observe any positive outcomes to this challenging situation? Are businesses borrowing to stay afloat or rather to grow? How does
it's a really interesting question. I think obviously last year was very impactful for us, and this year, currently, I think we really felt for SMEs during this pandemic. Businesses like ourselves got hit pretty hard. But I think the government here in the UK did the right thing by introducing COVID relief loans, CBILS, etc. And many businesses took up those schemes, and which allowed them to keep them afloat. I think right now we're starting to see businesses have exhausted sort of their relief options. So they've probably taken as much as they can from the government. And what they're looking to do now is actually go out and find capital to grow their business out of the pandemic. So we're excited to support businesses as they bounce back. I think in terms of positive, this pandemic has really forced businesses to think differently, I feel, including, pushing out more into the e-commerce channels to survive. I truly believe UK businesses especially have shown themselves to be very resilient. I think we've seen, confidence beginning to grow again. And I think they are taking the front foot. So rather than sort of withdrawing, being conservative, I think they're really deciding, this is it. Once we come out of the pandemic, I want to borrow money to grow and, support my growth through it. So that's exciting to see. And I think it's a true testament to these small business owners.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Quite interesting. Thanks for this. But let's leave Capify aside for a moment. As we know, we are also a mentor in FinTech Alliance Mentorship Hub. So if you could tell us a little bit more about it. So why are you involved in such activity?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I see it simply as people helping other people, which is great. And kudos to FinTech Alliance for setting it up. It's basically a platform and a hub where you come together and you meet, there's sort of a list of mentors and a list of mentees, mentorees to sort of, interact, and they have this sort of chat feature, which is great. And then you can organize calls and things like that. I talked to someone the other day and he was probably actually just as experienced as me, maybe more in FinTech, but he and his wife were moving back from LA to London. And he really just needed to understand the UK FinTech scene and what to look out for. Myself, I actually came over only about 3 years ago. So I could certainly relate to sort of what he was going through in some space. And it was a great conversation. And I think that's what it's about. FinTech can be quite a lonely place, especially in small startups or remote working. So I sort of feel like I wish I had something like this hub earlier in my career. I think as a society, we don't do mentorships enough, and certainly in FinTech, we should be doing it more. I think business and life coaches are great, but I think there's just so much value out there with regular people who have been through a bit of stuff and can sort of just add value and advice where appropriate.
Yeah. But besides like your decision-making role at Capify and the mentoring at the FinTech Alliance, you are also a FinTech commentator, I would say, who has his own blog, right? So let's take a more general look at the FinTech sector now. What areas of this FinTech industry do you find most interesting as a writer or blog writer?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I do enjoy writing, and whether or not people like to read it is a different story. But naturally, things that I understand the most around B2B lending and sort of the technology around that, I find easiest to write about. However, I do like to explore, the variety of what FinTech is and some of these trends that we're seeing. I do find my most popular posts are to do with Bitcoin and blockchain. I think it's such a hot topic at the moment, and there's just so much you can write about with that. And I think people like to sort of speculate and try and understand what's going on. So I find that quite enjoyable as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I guess we will actually get to the Bitcoin topic later, but before that, I read your blog post about sustainability or this type of startups that are trying to somehow address need of sustainability in the fintech space, which was quite interesting because it's not so obvious that you could think about sustainability in our climate awareness in the context of financial solutions. So I would like to know your opinion about how this is a interesting, or how much there will be happening actually in this narrow space of sustainability focused startups.
Yeah, definitely, and certainly, green fintech is trending right now. It's green sustainability. That sort of hashtag is certainly. I think a lot of corporates are jumping onto it very quickly, and that's what we're seeing. And I think you're seeing a lot of these. With Earth Day recently, you're seeing a lot of these pledges for zero carbon emissions by 2030, and etc. And a lot of those corporates are jumping onto it. I think with FinTech, there's a unique opportunity to help consumers and businesses in different ways. Some of them are, you are starting to see some of these FinTechs that are really helping people understand what their spending is doing. So with certain suppliers and products that they're buying, how does that actually at the end of the day affect CO2 levels, in general, and what sort of contribution is it making? So there's this sort of, this use of data and things like that are helping consumers make those decisions, which I think is really interesting and great. Because I think, up to now, it still feels like sometimes it can be quite hard to engage with, how to actually help make the planet better as a consumer, rather than, just liking the Instagram post about a whale or something like that. That's, sometimes that's what we feel the most we can do. What I really do like at the moment is, and I wrote about this in my recent blog, is some of these green community initiatives that are happening, and there are some exciting fintechs that are supporting this rising ecosystem. One of those is a startup called Raise Green, and what they do is they help actual people in local communities invest into local community initiatives. Most of those are solar powered spaces where energy is being generated, and it actually allows locals to take some ownership in those projects as well, which is really exciting. And so this is a brand new thing that Raise Green is sort of bringing, two sides, people that are sort of running these projects and people in the local community who can actually, they can walk their dog past it, down the road. So it's quite very tangible. So and they're getting quite smart. Ray Screen are getting quite smart with the analytics as well. So you can actually say, right, if I invest this much, this is actually how much solar power I'm generating as part of my investment. So things like that we'll start to see. And so I'm, personally quite excited about the community initiatives that are happening and what, FinTech is empowering people to do, which I think is great.
Great. So to connect those two topics, sustainability and Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, I would like to ask you for an opinion about the criticism about the energy cost of and energy power that is actually needed to maintain all of those Bitcoin facilities where miners are trying to to mine new Bitcoins, and it's being said that it's the whole consumption of energy to just in the Bitcoin space is comparable to the energy consumption of the country like Ukraine or Denmark or Argentina. So it raises quite interesting question about sustainability of such cryptocurrency like Bitcoin. So do you have any opinion on this? Do you think about this aspect of Bitcoin?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think looking back at the sort of the Bitcoin blockchain, you've got these 5,000 anonymous nodes around the world. These sort of computers that are sort of all contributing to the ledger, and they sort of make sure everything gets tracked and things like that. And I'm writing a post at the moment around some of those vulnerabilities. And one stat came out is if you were to try and hack blockchain, you need to control 51% of those nodes that are out there. And that's because to have 51% or more ownership of those nodes means you can actually go and change the ledger. And basically whatever you put in there is the objective truth. Because if you have less than that, if you try and change something, the majority is going to override you. So I was reading one article recently as part of my research, and they worked out that if you have enough computing power to try and force an attack on Bitcoin's blockchain, you would have to rent enough computer space and power that would cost about $250,000 an hour of computing power just to try and launch this attack. So that just gives you some indication of how expensive it is. So I think what will happen is, I think the sort of awareness that's coming around the sustainability of the energy is good, and we need to have those discussions. I think some of these new coins that are coming out that have sort of more sort of innovative, algorithms that don't need as much computing power, I think is probably the way forward. But it's gonna, Bitcoin is just so popular these days. It's hard to see, one of these new coins that perhaps is more eco-friendly overtaking it. So we'll have to see. It's going to be very interesting, I think.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly. Especially that like the recent weeks are quite harsh for Bitcoin investors because it's going down right now.
The bear market.
Yeah, so it's quite interesting how popular this cryptocurrency became recently. Okay, thanks for this opinion. It's quite interesting.
That's all right. That's all right. I certainly think with Coinbase's IPO recently, I think that's a real game changer. I think it's certainly validating cryptocurrency. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Simon, now at the end of our discussion, I guess I would like to, get back just for a second to the Capify again, and would like to ask you about your plans, about the future, your roadmap. Any, if you can share like what are your plans for upcoming, for a near future or farther future? So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, it's about in my specific role, it's really about helping partners, whether that's a B2B service, a large payment platform, a marketplace out there, an e-commerce sort of platform. It's really about how can Capify help drive loyalty and make access to finance a lot easier for your SME audience on your platform, or in your sort of CX or customer experience portal. And really that's through embedded finance, which is something here at Capify. We've taken on a bit of funding recently. We're really interested in that space. We're very much committed to working with partners that are looking to introduce this sort of FinTech as a service, this embedded finance into their customer experience. And I think that trend is growing very, very, very quickly. For banks, banking as a service is really picking up as well. And I think, for the likes of us, FinTech as a service, where we come along and we sort of offer our solution through a white labeled experience or whatever, through a non-financial brand even, I think is really exciting. So it's about, here at Capify, we're really interested in working with companies that are already capturing data, and that could be sales data or whatever else, and how we can actually plug that into our underwriting and actually help customers come to a decision very quickly. So, some of the exciting things are, you could be on an e-commerce platform as an SME selling online, and all of a sudden you get this notification saying you've been pre-approved. And that basically means, based on your sales data that you're already generating, we've been able to understand that there's actually an opportunity for a loan for yourself. So I think some of these discussions that I'm having out there are really exciting, and it's just about working with partners in unique ways that helps them put them ahead of the competition. So I think that's watch this space. It'll be great.
Perfect. So fingers crossed for your plans.
Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, as I said, that was our last question. So thanks again, Simon, for your time and for the discussion and great insights. And I hope we will have a chance to meet again soon and discuss not only current, but also upcoming trends in the FinTech space. So yeah, thank you again. Yeah, so.
Thank you. It's been great. Cheers.